Not only can Animate ingest web standard image file formats, but we can also import full Photoshop documents into our project with a good set of control over certain aspects of the PSD structure. To do so, we choose File, Import, and Import to Stage. In my exercise files, I have a background texture PSD, and we can see that the dimensions are the exact dimensions of our Animate project. Let's go ahead and open. Here you can see it's a rather simple Photoshop document. This is the Import Photoshop File dialog. Here we can select a comp if we have one, or we can go ahead to select particular layers to bring in. So if I only wanted this piece of text that reads background texture, I could bring that in as text, and I could choose editable text for that. I could also bring it in as vector outlines, in which case it will turn the text into shapes. Additionally, I could choose to flatten this bitmap image, and alternatively create a movie clip symbol of this particular layer. Now, we haven't talked about movie clip symbols yet, but they're going to be very important later on. And this is a really easy way to quickly create a bunch of them through a PSD. If choosing a bitmap image, we can choose the type of compression. Are we using lossy or lossless compression? And do we want to use the general publish setting for our project or some sort of a custom setting? If using a custom quality setting, we can even calculate the bitmap size. We can choose to convert the layers coming in to animate layers. So in this case, if we brought in both of these layers, we would have 2 extra layers inside of our animate project. We can also bring them in as a single animate layer. So it would bring in all the contents, but group them into one specific layer. Or we could even choose keyframes, in which case it'll bring each layer in, not as a layer, but as a new keyframe. We're going to choose single animate layer. We can also choose to import the entire project as a single bitmap image. We can choose to place objects at original position based on XY coordinates, and to set the stage size in our animate project to match that of the Photoshop canvas we're importing. Now, I don't want this text layer. I don't care about that. That's just for me to identify things. I want this grunge texture right here, and I'm going to bring it in as a flattened bitmap image. And let's bring that in as lossless so it looks really nice. I'm going to hit import, and there it is. So not only does an instance of this bitmap image exist on my stage in a new layer, but it also exists within my library within a new folder structure. So here's our background texture PSD asset, and there's our grunge texture bitmap image right there. You'll notice immediately that my photo has gone away, and the reason for that is simply because of our layering here. So this layer I'm going to double click and rename as texture. And new layer, I'll double click on that name and name this photo. You can reorder layers by simply clicking them and then dragging them across the layer stacking order. So I'm going to bring photo right up to the top of the stacking order here, lock it down so I can't actually move it, so that I don't mistakenly select or move or edit anything that I don't want to. In this case, we've only brought in a bit of texture from a Photoshop document, but could easily have retained the various Photoshop layers as animate layers within the timeline for a more complex project.